That's the test cough. Good afternoon, folks. This is Catherine here in Christchurch, New Zealand. Partly cloudy, partly sunny day. Supposed to have got up to about 22 Celsius earlier in the day. It's about 4:30 PM now, daylight savings time. I have no camera operator except for myself, so hopefully I'm in the shot. Sometimes I don't have a head. What I wanted to do today was some potting up of a palm. And I have this one here. It's not really spiky at the moment. This is the Phoenix canariensis, the Canary Island Date Palm, grown all around the world where it can. The fronds towards the base get to be very sharp spines. It's not really old enough for that yet. They're actually quite dangerous. When they're a big palm, they can be very sharp. At the moment though, they're not just stiff, they're not really a spine. It's in a 10 litre bucket pot, about 2.5 US gallons, just over 2 imperial gallons. I've explained this before. A bucket costs $1 or $2, $2.50 depending on where you are, New Zealand dollars. If you drill holes in the bottom, and if it's a blue or black bucket, it lasts for a long time in the sun. If you buy an actual 10 litre pot at the hardware or store or garden centre, they'll charge you $6 or $8. Now I actually got some the other day on super duper special, 30 litre ones for $6. That was amazing, and I knew that I had a couple of jobs for them. Now this one, you can actually see it's pushed itself up out of the pot. Now when I potted this, I left a gap of about 2 or 3 inches, 50 to 75 millimetres with the soil level, so that when I water it with the hose, I give it a good splash, I know it's had a really good drink. The soil level now is actually level with the top of the pot, it's a little bit below there. There's actually roots poking up out of the top, whether because some of the soil's been displaced or washed out by watering, or whether because the roots have just come up the side, and it's fully supported on those roots. It really, now of course you mustn't pot them deep like that, that wouldn't be very good for them at all. You can pot them up to about the bottom of there, so bring that soil level up a bit. I haven't even test fitted this. Okay, that is barely any improvement. It is a couple of inches improvement, so that will do us. If it was absolutely no improvement, first of all, with all varieties of palms, you don't root prune them unless there's absolutely no alternative. So, I have of course got my sit-upon or kneel-upon, which is an old potting mix bag, because I go through enough. Oh, here we go, that's coming off easy. Oh, look at that. We'll just have a quick look at that. There's a big hollow in the middle. There's a big hollow in the middle. Now, I could actually repot this into a pot that's, say, for instance, let's say I wanted to repot this back into the same pot. I would use a snipper's knife, whatever, to prune the bottom few inches off, put it back in the same pot. Now palms don't like, there are no palms at all that like having their roots interfered with. These palms are more forgiving than most, but still they'd rather not. So what we'll do, and just a general warning about bitey things in your area, there may be spiders or scorpions. In New Zealand there are no poisonous spiders we need to worry about, and there's no scorpions. The potting mix should be kept moist, because potting mix, along with compost, homemade compost and garden soil, it can contain Legionella and lead to Legionnaire's disease. So if you come down with like really bad breathing, lung symptom things after gardening, do tell the doctor that there is a possibility of a Legionnaire's and to test you for it. Some people use gloves and a mask, but just be aware and to wash your hands before preparing food and that afterwards. This is very moist, there's no dust in it at all, it's actually a bit wetter than I'd like. It came out of the packet this way, it came out of the bag. That was another test cough. Now, I did actually, I'm trying to get a wee bit of a, it's got like a reverse shape of a funnel in there. So I'm just trying to get a little bit on the bottom to fill that little void. It actually doesn't matter if there's voids with air in it, around roots a little bit. That's quite natural. Because there's sort of like moist air, you know, like below the ground. The roots don't actually mind that. Yeah, I just get the cheapest potting mix, it's on special. I go to whatever garden centre or here in New Zealand, that would generally either be the garden department at Warehouse, the Warehouse, or at Bunnings, possibly a dedicated garden centre, and I just get what's on special. Just the cheapest potting mix. I'll give that a little shake. As long as it's roughly centred. It's not rocket science here, we're not sending them to Mars. You don't need to measure it with a micrometer. This is where it's advantageous if this potting mix is a bit dry, because it you can sort of shake it down the sides a bit better. So if this pot was substantially deeper, I would have put several inches of nice new potting mix in the bottom. As it was, it really just got a smear of it with a little hump in the middle because of the hollow in the roots. That hollow is just because the roots are sort of, because they'd filled up the pot, they would just start to push the plant up out of the pot. You notice I didn't do any root cutting at all, and you know, when they talk about, you know, maybe cutting the roots a bit and spreading them out a bit or something like that, that is not for palms. For palms, the true palms, they have a completely different to all other, like apple tree, oak tree, orange tree, all those kind of things. So no, you don't do that. Now this stuff in the bottom of the bucket here is a bit drier. It's from that same bag of stuff, it's just I've had it out of the bag a bit longer. Right. Now, I've run out of that one, so I've got this new bag opened. So again, if this isn't already quite wet in the bag, they recommend you wet it down before you start dealing with it. And certainly if anyone's immunocompromised or something, you should definitely have a at least some kind of a filter mask on of some kind. That's shaken down. It's really, this pot really has only given me a benefit of about 2 inches in height, barely that. But it will do for this growing season at least. And it's supposedly a 30 litre. It didn't actually look much litre. It looked bigger than a 10 litre bucket, but They were sold as 30 litre pots, so marked as 30 litre. I guess it means that a plant gets to have a fair bit more root area. If you saw old gardening programs of 40 odd years ago, the person would be wearing boots, stamping the soil down. That's now no longer the theory. And something like this is my billion purpose tool. It's a blunt old knife. Just put it down the side there, give it a wee wiggle. You could use a piece of a stick, or you can just use your fingertips. Just compressing it a bit. As I say, your fingertips will do. This is quite good if things have got spines. These canary palms develop spines when they get older. It's quite curious. It's obviously there's some scientific reason for it, the way that these frilly little things here, and as they go back up towards here, they become shorter and shorter and stiffer, and then they actually form very sharp spines. People have been injured, even gardeners. You do have to, be a bit careful with them. And give it just a couple more of these wee ones here. Obviously after this I'll give this a good thorough drink, a thorough watering. Yeah, it's if the pot was deeper I'd like to see it planted a bit deeper, but it is what it is. I think I've got one 40 litre pot spare. Well, I didn't really need to go all the way for a 40 litre pot for this one, so I think this is fine. And of course, one thing with palms, you can keep them in pot bound in pots that, a bit too small for them really for years and years and years if you want. Whether being grown as an indoor plant or as an outdoor plant. Obviously in this climate here we grow these outdoors. In some parts of Europe these be indoors. I've seen them grow outdoors in Paris, but they were in a forklift carryable big tub. So obviously during the worst of winter weather they could be taken into a greenhouse of some kind. Got a container here of just some granulated fertiliser. It was said to be general garden or citrus and rose and whatever else. It's a slow release. This is actually, there's a tiny bit of fertiliser in the potting mix. And I'm sure that technically is over fertilised for that amount of soil, or potting mix, but it will get fairly heavily watered over this growing season, so that should be very happy. And the old bucket, that's a bucket that had the potting mix in it. This is the one that came out of, I think. This one here, there we go. And yeah, I can give that a bit of a clean up, and that can be used for another pot, another plant. These blue plastic buckets or black buckets, they resist the ultraviolet. They last for years and years and years in the garden. And remember, New Zealand and Australia have a very high level of ultraviolet light. So here we go. This one I'm sure will be much happier. I'll set him back amongst his friends. There's another one there is not quite so. We've got three similar. The other two of them haven't grown up out of their pots at all. One of them is just starting to. And it's just a bit hard to fit this into place here. Here we go. They'll have to move along a bit. They could all be friends together. There we go. I'll give that a water in just a minute. And I'll put some potting mix in a bucket ready for my next job. Alright folks. This is Catherine. And that's how you pot up a canary palm, Phoenix canariensis. They are I forget the technical word, but as a plant they're either a boy or a girl. bit pushed over there by those other ones. Come on, you've got to be friends. They're a bit squeezed in here together. It's a bit of a squeeze, especially in winter. In summer there's plenty of sun. There you go. Obviously they don't fruit and have a flower stalk until much later in their life when they're much bigger. And you need a boy and a girl, or you don't get the flowers and fruits. Technically the dates are edible, but there's nothing really on them to eat. But they are related to the edible date, but they can take much more cold. So I've seen pictures of these growing in the south of England quite well now. 50 years ago they wouldn't. You don't have to believe about global warming or anything. It's just 50 years ago you couldn't grow these in the south of England, and now you can. So there you go. Phoenix canariensis, the Canary Island Date Palm. It's from about as far away from New Zealand as it's possible to get. Anyway, bit of fresh country on me. Okay folks, that's all. I've got to give this one a good watering. And, one reason for giving it a good watering, even though you push, even though you use your fingertips or you use the blunt knife to push it down around that, sometimes there will be a big hollow in there somewhere. You'll water it and have a big burp and suddenly there's a hollow. You know, you just need to top that up a little bit more with potting mix. But that should be really good. Alright folks, that's going to do me for now. And I'm going to give that a watering. Bye.